Alright, so for the next few videos, we're going to focus on HTML forms. So forms are how we get input from the user, whether it's the sign up for a page, comment on a photo, upload a photo, to pick a color, or to pick a date. There's so many different things you do with forms, and it's actually relatively simple in HTML. There's just two important elements that we're going to learn about here. So we're going to focus on the form tag, the input tag, the label tag, and then we're also going to finish up by learning about validations for our data. And that's how we make sure that someone fills in the form correctly. You know, they don't leave fields blank like password or email or something like that. So to start, let's just take a quick survey of some of the forms you would encounter in your day-to-day life. So I have some images here from sites like Twitter, Facebook, and Google. Let's take a look and break some of these down. We have a place where we can type some text in, another input where we can type our passwords in. Most likely when you type your password there, it's dotted out so you don't actually see the password. Then we have a checkbox. And when you click this button here, it submits this entire thing. So it groups these together. So we don't have one button for email and one button for password and one button for checkbox. It all goes at once. Same thing here. When we sign up, we've got more inputs. 5 different text inputs, 3 different drop-down menus, and these are called select tags. And then we have 2 things called radio buttons. And then finally, a sign up button that is going to take all this and send it somewhere for Facebook to use. So what we're going to learn today is the form tag. And these forms are going to be a little bit dumb. They're not going to actually do anything. We need to actually have a backend set up to do anything with the forms. So for right now, they're just going to look like this. But when you click sign up or you click login or you click search, our forms aren't actually going to do any of that logic. So the first thing is the form tag. So the form tag is basically a shell or a container for all these different types of inputs. So this is one form tag around all of this. This might be one form tag around all this here as well, and so on. By just making a form tag, you don't actually see anything on the page, and we'll see that just a second. Basically, it's just a container that we put all our different inputs in. So checkboxes and buttons and drop-down menus and color pickers all go inside of the form tag. So there are 2 important attributes. We'll be spending more time on these when we get to the back end. So try not to get hung up on how exactly this works. But a form is going to send a request somewhere, and it's also going to send the data from the form to a server somewhere. So the first part, action, is going to specify where to send the data. Is it going to Google? Is it going to our sign up page? Is it going to our sign out page? We're going to learn a lot more about how we actually do that when we get to the backend section of this series. Then the second part is what type of HTTP requests to send. So we can send a GET request or we can send a POST request. And again, this is something we're going to spend a lot more time on. But the simple generalized version is we make a GET request when we're doing something like searching or retrieving data from somewhere, be it from a database or from a server. And we make a POST request when we're sending data that we want to be added to our database or posted to a server. So in these examples, when you search on Google, you hit enter or click on search. That's going to make a GET request. It's not actually adding anything to a database. It's not changing anything. It's purely just getting data back. These here though, to sign up for Facebook or Twitter, those are going to be POST requests. When you type some data in and you click sign up, it takes your data and actually adds it to Twitter or Facebook's database. So again, we're actually going to work on this quite a bit later in this series. So for now, just be familiar with action and method and the fact that they exist. So the input tag is what actually goes inside of our forms. It's what's going to create the different inputs that we see here. A text input, a password input, a radio button. It doesn't actually create a drop-down menu. We'll talk about that later. But it creates all sorts of different inputs for user inputs. So I have a few examples here. They're all exactly the same except for this type attribute. If type equals text, we get a text box. If type equals date, we get a little date picker. If type equals color, we get a color picker. If type equals file, we get a file picker. And if type equals checkbox, we get a checkbox. So I'm actually going to pull up MDN and I'll search for input. And as I do that, you'll see as I scroll down to attributes, under type, there is a list of all the possible types that we can specify. And there's about 30 or 40 of them here. And to be honest, there's a lot on here that you probably will never use, but there are a few that you'll use all the time. And so we're going to actually focus on those things like text and email, password, date, button, and submit, than some of the other ones like color, which you may not use very often at all. But I want you to be aware that there's a lot of choices here. So then, to make a form, we just take a form tag and fill it with some input text. So here's a really simple example. We have two inputs, type equal text and type equals password. And it makes us this nice form here. And you can see as we fill out the first type equals text, it just looks like regular text. And as we fill out type equals password, it gives us the hidden password field.